think it's nicer when we're closer together. Look, look who's over here, over my shoulder. I don't know where to point.
This way.
Where is she? There she is. Look who's over there on the floor.
Hi, Sasha.
Here we are again, another Wednesday, powering through Wednesday, and the subject we thought we'd talk about today is explaining how this time of year agents actually start posting about how many houses they've sold in the previous year, what their sales volume is, or they're not going to say how much GCI they made, but how that makes sense to the public, because in my opinion, it's just to show other real estate agents and other brokerages, right, this is what I sold last year.
Yep.
I mean, I think to the public, it might matter for experience, right, that you've sold a significant amount of property, but the sales volume and the number of units and all that, I think to the public, they probably really don't care.
Right.
And
sometimes it might be misleading.
Yes.
If they don't explain what the metric is that they are putting out there.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest misconceptions about real estate agents, realtors, is that everybody thinks we make a ton of money. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the money is good when you're busy and when you are good at what you do. But we are 1099 employees. So anything we do, marketing, MLS memberships, anything at all comes out of our pockets before we make the money. So we actually start out in the year in the red, right? So starting out with paying our MLS dues, paying fees to a brokerage if you have to do that, marketing anything that we have listed or for ourselves,
open houses,
all of the things that
we pay
are cost of business.
Yes.
Right? It's like
gas,
we are the store.
Because we're literally in our cars all the time. Gas,
right? Car maintenance. But we're the store, I guess you could say. When you think about if you go shopping somewhere, someone probably owns that store, and in the morning they go in, they flip the light on, they open the door, and that's what we are. We are the store. So unless we get up every morning and flip the light on and start making business, it doesn't just fall into our lap,
right?
I guess. I mean, gosh, we have to have signs for the yards when we list property.
Which are not cheap.
No, they're not cheap. We have to have marketing material. We have to have, like I said, our MLS dues, which are not cheap either. And that's just a handful of things right off the top of my head. But anyway, think about that. So if you see real estate agent talking about how much volume they sold and how many units they sold, I'd say probably 50% of that is just paying themselves back for everything that they upfronted. Don't you think, in the beginning of the year? So you might see agents that say, and they may even post like pictures of all the houses they sold or whatever, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
No, I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, everyone represents a family that you've helped, or somebody that you've helped achieve their dream of home ownership or selling and moving somewhere else. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Sometimes though it is misleading, especially if you put, I sold $10 million this year. Okay, but what does that mean? In volume, in sales volume, you might have sold $10 million, which is wonderful. And that means that every house, the contracted price that it sold for, all added up to $10 million. But
the sales price.
The sales price.
So but every house.
What we'll get back from that is a small percentage that is agreed upon, within the contract and within the listing agreement. And then, we also have, depending on your brokerage, you have different levels of splits that you have to pay to your brokerage. And then you get the remainder of that. A lot of our business also comes from referrals. So you have to pay an additional percentage to the referring agent. So a lot of that to think about. We don't make 6% off of every home that we sell.
No. No. I try to do that when I go to list a property, and I think you do too. Like, I explain to the seller, look, I don't get to keep it all.
Yeah.
It would be great, but
yeah, right.
I don't get to keep it all. Those commission checks aren't paid to me. They're paid to the brokerage. And then the brokerage keeps what they keep.
Yep.
And then they pay us. And then I would say, depending on the listing, I would say on an average, a third of those checks go to reimbursing ourselves for what we spent up front to market it, sell it.
We pay for professional photography, videography.
Yeah.
That's
the open houses, the broker open houses, the marketing, the social media marketing, the paid marketing that we do, like on Google and places like that that cost extra because it's what we're supposed to do. But I think that there's a lot of that upfront money. So then out of what's left, you keep a certain percent out to pay your taxes. Yep. And then you get to keep what's left. So after everybody's had their hands in the pot.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, let me have. Yeah. Then that's what we're left with. So I think that the GCI, which is gross commission income, the gross is one thing, but the net is totally different.
What you end up taking home at the end of the day.
Totally different. There have been times where I've thought, what did I make? Yeah. I mean, if I had to, on some transactions, if I had to add up an hourly rate, I would be in the hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say 20% of the time.
Yeah.
Maybe
because
more.
A lot of us, what we do is on the computer, and it is, writing up the contracts and making sure, scheduling the appointments and all of that. So if we don't really have an hourly rate, but
if you broke it down, you probably would quit.
Yeah.
Well, like this morning is a perfect example. We have a listing in Beckley, and we got an offer this morning. And I would say over 3-hour period we negotiated?
Yeah.
It's probably 3 hours.
Back and forth.
So the time because Rebecca drove down there, so you spent probably 3 to 4 hours.
My initial listing appointment,
Yeah.
and then I drove down there again for the photography appointment, which is about an hour away from my house. So, an hour driving there, an hour driving back 2 times. And then,
well, and the amount of time you were there talking to the seller for the listing appointment, and then the amount of time that you were there for the photographer. So you spent more than half of a day.
Oh yeah.
Just those 2 instances. Yes. So then it's time spent of putting the listing in the multiple listing service, and then the marketing and the paid. We do all of that.
Right.
We don't have people. I wish we had people.
But if we had people, then we would have to pay an additional person.
Well, yeah. There's a cost to that too. That's true. And so anyway, I would say, no. So we, like I said, 3 hours this morning just negotiating. We just got the updated contract back, and now we're going to have to get back in and send it to the sellers for signature. Everybody gets a copy. That's the state law in West Virginia. Then we've got to go into Scottslope and put it in there, and then we've got to go in the MLSs and update status in there. Yep. So it's like there's a policy, there's a method to the madness, believe it or not. And there are policies and rules that we have to follow too with the MLSs. Like once we go under contract, we have to change something within depends on the MLS, 24 to 48 hours, something like that. But anyway, that's just a good explanation of the GCI and the net. The sales volume, like you said, it's like every house you've sold, the sales price is added together.
Yes.
So it's not what we make.
So sometimes people just see that number and they're like, oh my gosh, there's like so much money in real estate. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's not, like you said.
Right.
It's really good if you're super consistent with what you do and super good at what you do. But that is not the number that people have in their bank accounts at the end of the year.
Trust me, if I had that much money, I wouldn't be selling real estate. I'd be living in Tahiti. Or, I mean, seriously.
Your money would be working for you then.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And you know, I don't drive a fancy car. I don't drive. I mean, you drive a truck.
I drive a truck with a. This is done. This is blocked out.
Blocked out. Oh.
I drive a truck that is paid for.
Yeah, and I drive a Subaru that is paid for. So
yeah,
not fancy, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I like it.
Sometimes we need those rugged vehicles to get to where we need to go.
Yeah, I've been places several times where I'm glad I had a Subaru. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Subaru.
Not something to tear up, and if you do, it's not the end of the world.
That's right. That's exactly right. So that's just a good. Was that a good description of it?
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, all we're trying to get at is sometimes if somebody just posts their sales volume, it seems a little braggadocious. Is that a word? I think it is.
I like
it's like a little braggy. It's just like a little bit like to other agents specifically. Like, oh, this is what I did, you know, but
yeah,
it's also great. It's good for you. That means you're hustling and you're working your butt off.
Yeah.
But
it's nice to get that pat on the back. And even from your peers.
Yeah.
Right? So here's a good example. I went into my primary multiple listing service, which is Huntington Realtors, and I went in and ran a report on the sales volume. It's not even close to what I sold because not everything is in that Huntington multiple listing service. Sometimes they're in different ones, and sometimes it was for sale by owner, or sometimes whatever it is. Right. So when I go into Huntington, I think it says my sales from January to December was like 6 million or something like that, and then like I know I sold more than that. So then I logged into our enterprise at EXP, and it was like, I don't know, 10 million, and it's only because the numbers are skewed because of access and all that kind of thing, you know. But at EXP we go by an anniversary year because our system is a capping system. So once you cap, which means after you've paid that percent to EXP, once that adds up to $16,000 for me. For you, it's 8.
Yes,
so we're on a team.
Because I'm on a team.
So she, as a team member, her cap is half. So after we pay that, then we cap, and then after that, it's $250 a transaction.
Yep. Until
the end of your anniversary year, and it starts all over again.
It's a good system.
Yeah, it's a great system. It's very incentivizing, and then if you want to. If you're on a team and you want that $16,000 cap, you can do that, because then you can also icon, which means the $16,000 we pay, the company awards us stock.
Yeah.
So even though we may pay that 16, we have the opportunity to get that $16,000 back in EXP stock, and that's what makes us all shareholders.
Let me say one more thing too before we end this.
Mouthstrap.
It's also dependent on your market that you're in.
Oh, yeah.
Because if somebody says they sold 25 million, but they're in Tampa, Florida, or Miami or something, and the average sale price of a house down there, I don't know what it is, but let's just say it's 500,000. That means they sold 25 or whatever it is, or
whatever it would add up to. Yeah.
You know, so let's say they sold 50 houses or whatever it was. Well, you sold over 50 houses. 52 in 2023. Last year. And, you know, the total sales volume isn't anywhere near that just because of our market. Right. So it doesn't always matter, even total, like you did the same work that somebody else selling 50 houses would have done. Sure. But some, you know, if you're in California or Florida or somewhere hot like that with you know, very high average sale prices. Gosh, even Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. I mean, you know, Columbus is 2.5, 3 hours away, and that market there is outrageous. And in Lexington and Cincinnati, the average sales, and even in the Eastern Panhandle in West Virginia, up close to D.C., Maryland, the average sales price of a home up there is like $600,000. Here, where we are, 180. Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, it takes a little bit of extra work depending on your market. I agree with you.
And so, you do like to say, look, this is what I accomplished, and let people know, I think, because it feels good.
Yep.
Doesn't it? I mean, gosh, we work so hard. We work really hard. We really do.
A lot of it is just unseen
yeah.
work that's put in after hours and
late at
on
night,
weekends.
Yeah.
A lot of it is. So it is nice to give yourself that pat on the back. But for the consumers, just making sure that you're not just looking at one, or presenting one number and making any assumptions about agents because of that one number.
I agree. All right. Since we straightened that up. We're gonna keep these videos up because we know you're so entertained, and we know you just can't wait for another one. But we are gonna keep it up, and we do hope it brings you some value. And you can always reach out to us if you need anything. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Right. Have a good day.